Morning, humans. I not feel well. I went out for a walk, and a couple of my nails broke. And I got the bloody paws. And now I'm not feeling well. Daddy brought his treats to me. And you guys can ignore the stuff that's going on in the background. Daddy left the TV on. But I'm just going to chill here and eat my treat. And I hope you guys have a nice Sunday. Daddy's gonna go do his video now. Hey, you humans. Aw, that's a good boy, Kaiba. Alright, we are back upstairs at the card spot. Just gonna plug in the phone so it doesn't die on me in the middle of this. And I will apologize in advance because you guys are gonna have to bear with me for a couple minutes while I sort the cards, since I didn't get a chance to do that before I started. My dad just kind of left all of a sudden. I didn't get a chance to fully prepare. To be honest, I wasn't even sure if I was going to get a Super Deck Sunday in today, because part of me wasn't sure if I had a deck that I really wanted to share with you guys, since the more cards I open, of course, the issue becomes the more stuff I want to include in different decks, and as a result, the more decks that I want to upgrade. But if I upgrade those decks, then I have to refeature them on the channel. And while I don't mind refeaturing them on the channel, my concern is that you guys might not be interested in seeing them again, just because I changed, say, 5 to 10 cards in a deck. So the other option, of course, is to just put them all on Archidect and give you guys a link to all my decks online. But I honestly don't know how Archidect works. I do get a little worried that people could change the actual decks themselves if I give them access to those. Now, I'm sure I'm wrong about that, and I'm just being overly cautious or nervous about it, but I honestly just thought that it would probably be for the best if I simply lost my train of thought. Oh, I thought it would be for the best if I didn't actually just keep refeaturing decks that I've already put on the channel, at least not for a little while. So, for example, my cat deck is going to get a couple of different cards added to it. There's a few other decks that I featured recently that are all going to get upgrades probably in the next couple of weeks before I do the big sort of the cards and put them all away again for a bit, and then get them back out periodically for different decks, and then they all get into a giant pile on my table again. All that good stuff. It's just kind of a never-ending cycle, which is funny because I can honestly say that it's been about a month and a half since I've played my last Commander game. I don't think I've played any Commander games since my dad came home. I keep meaning to get out for Saturday Night Commander, but it never seems to happen. Whether it be because I start my laundry too late, or whether it be just because Kaiba really needs some attention and love, or what have you. But, yeah. So, today's Commander deck is going to be Secret Commander. So, I will put the Commander up there for us to look at later. And as an added bonus, we also have a Secret Planeswalker. So I'm going to see if you guys can guess who the Planeswalker and who the creature are in this deck. There was one other card I wanted to replace. I'm just going to do that super quick, guys. And then we will get on with this video. I knew there was one that I was forgetting. Artifacts. Because there's one that definitely belongs more so in this deck, I think, than my other red deck that I'm currently building. This, by the way, is my spell slinger deck, so for those of you who have been listening to me go on and on about spell slinger decks, this is the third of 4. It is not the goblin deck. The goblin deck, if I am really lucky, will be ready for next week, along with the Commander Core Creator Challenge deck. And if I can get both of those ready in time, then we can actually have a double deck weekend, which will be kind of cool. Where the heck is that thing? There it is. That belongs in this deck way more than the stupid Rakdos thing. I do like the Rakdos thing, don't get me wrong, but this is just great. Okay. We are good. I apologize for all the different delays. You guys have been a great crowd. So, without further ado, let's get to my red-black Spellslinger deck. Start with the lands. I got some swamps and some mountains, of course. We also have the Dross Pits. Enters tapped, add black, pay 1 and a black, sacrifice to draw a card. I also have the red one in here too, Autonomous Furnace, there it is. Same reasoning. Honestly, sacrificing lands is probably not the best idea in this deck because this deck is kind of short on lands. If I remember correctly, it's 33. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. Oh, nope, 30. 30 lands. So probably not super great, but I do have ways of generating some extra mana in this deck. So I'm not overly worried, but definitely the Dross Pits and Autonomous Furnace would probably be 2 lands that would be better to pull and put something else in, but I just don't have anything overly interesting to put in those spots right now. I do have a Temple of the False Gods to add an extra land, as long as I have 5. So that does help. We have a Haunted Ridge. We have a Shadowblood Ridge as well. A Bloodfell Caves. And a Razortap Gorge. So, decent amount of land. It's not amazing, obviously. 30 is a little shy. If anything, I probably should go back through and try and cut a couple creatures and add a couple more lands. That probably wouldn't be a bad idea at some point in the near future. But for now, the deck is what it is. I needed to put something on the channel for you guys, and I was hard-pressed. So I could very well end up updating this later today when I'm doing the other decks that I'm updating. But in the meantime, in between time, let's carry on. We'll start with enchantments. Cardor's Vicious Return. You may sacrifice a creature. When you do, this thing deals 3 damage to any target. Each player discards a card, and then you can return a creature from your graveyard to the battlefield with a +1/+1 counter, and it gains haste. The sacrificing the creature thing, I do like dealing the 3 extra damage. This is definitely a deck that wants to do lots and lots of damage, so that is something. And that's why, again, I should cut like 1 or 2 creatures and add a couple extra mana sources into this deck. I'll probably do that before I actually close out. I'll probably put an extra swamp and an extra mountain in, and I'll cut a couple of the creatures as we're going through that I don't need. So you get to see me doing a live deck edit as I do the deck profile. Aria of Flame, 2 and a red, enters the battlefield. Each opponent gains 10 life. I've never been really super fond of that. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, though, you get to put a verse counter on this thing, and then it deals damage equal to the number of verse counters on it to target player or planeswalker. So, essentially, yeah, you're going to give people a whole bunch of life, but every time you cast an instant or sorcery, and there's going to be a bunch in this deck, you will be tacking on the damage, and it will add up fairly quickly. Plus, with what my commander does, hint, hint at the commander, you're definitely not going to be overly worried about how much life other people are gaining, because they're not going to outgain you. Curse of Shaken Faith, 1 and a red, pick a player. That player casts a spell other than their first spell, or if they copy one, they take 2 damage. So, essentially, they're limited to 1 card per turn, As long as this is on them, unless they want to take a bunch of damage, which again, if you play Arya and then you play this, well, that player is going to be cut back fairly quickly. Festival of Embers, this is actually a really good one for me. During my turn, I can cast instant sorceries from my graveyard by paying a life in addition to their other costs. The downside to this card is if a card or token would be put into my graveyard from anywhere, it gets exiled instead, so I'm not going to get any death triggers, one. And two, all the stuff that I'm casting from the graveyard is instantly going to exile after it's been cast. So it's kind of a double-edged sword. You definitely... the nice thing about this thing is it does come with an out, where you can pay 1 and a red to sacrifice it. And I'm pretty sure you can do that at instant speed, so essentially you could do that before combat if you're going to lose like a valuable creature, or if somebody targets an important piece on the board, you could sacrifice this in response so that you don't have that thing get exiled. Loot Dispute is my last enchantment in this deck. When it enters the battlefield, you take the initiative and create a treasure token. Whenever you attack a player who has the initiative, you get another treasure token. And whenever you complete a dungeon, you get a 5/5 dragon creature token with flying. I'm not overly interested in the dungeon mechanic. It's mostly in here because of the treasure making to help with the mana issue. But I don't have a lot of decks that do the Undercity, so this is kind of cool because it will let me do the Undercity and track initiative for everybody, which I think is kind of fun. I do have to grab that token out of my tokens box at some point and add it to this deck along with a dragon. My tokens box is over there. We'll do that at the end. Next, we have Pyromancer's Goggles. This is the one I just replaced for the Rakdos Signet. Instead of getting 2 mana for tapping by paying 1 mana, I'm going to get just the 1 mana, but if this mana is cast to used on a red instant or sorcery spell, I get to copy that spell, which is going to be a lot of fun in this deck because this deck does a ton of damage stuff, and so doubling all the damage stuff that I do, or at least 1 per turn, is going to be really useful. And the vast majority of the instants and sorceries in this deck are definitely either red or black. So I'm not... Or, sorry, of course they're red or black. Most of them are red or red and black, I meant to say. There's not a lot of just black solo spells in this deck, so pretty sure I'm going to get to use that frequently. Undercity Scrounger is another great one for this deck. First grade of the day. Tap it to make a treasure token, but only if a creature died this turn. So as long as I make sure that I tap it on a turn where I've used one of my instants or sorceries to kill an opponent's creature, I get a treasure token out of it. Pretty good mana generation. And finally, Rakdos Keyrune taps for black or red, and you can also pay black and red to make it a 3/1 black-red devil artifact creature with first strike. Not going to probably do the second thing, but it's definitely useful for the extra mana. So all of those are there mainly as extra mana sources to help support the fact that this deck really doesn't have a lot of mana generation. Moving right along, I'm going to get into the creatures now, and maybe you guys can help me decide what to cut if I can't figure it out later on myself. We're going to start with Electrostatic Infantry. It's a 1/2 with trample, and whenever you cast an instant or sorcery, you get to put a +1/+1 counter on it, so it's going to get pretty big pretty fast. Null Priest of Oblivion costs 1 and a black to put in, and 3 and a black for the kicker. Gets lifelink menace 2/1, and if it enters with it being kicked, you get to return a creature from your graveyard to the battlefield. So mainly this is in here to get me back key pieces of my creature base to the battlefield, but I do love the fact that it has lifelink and menace as well. Pyrehound, trample, whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, put a +1/+1 counter on this thing, just another copy of Electrostatic Infantry. Do I need both? Probably not. This one is a little stronger. It's a 2/3 instead of a 1/2. Is that worth the extra 2 mana though? I'm not sure. That might be one I might consider cutting. Torwalkie, the Younger, is definitely not one that's going to get cut. Reach lifelink. Whenever a source I control would deal non-combat damage to a permanent or a player, it deals an extra damage on top of that. And whenever I cast an instant or sorcery, he deals 2 damage to any target. So he's a fantastic addition to this deck. Florian is actually one I'm considering cutting. I really don't like Impulse Draw. It's never been my favorite thing. What I do like about him is that I get to look at the top X cards and pick which one I want to use. That's the main reason I'm keeping him in here, is because it's actually my choice which one I'm going to play that turn if I can afford to play it. The key thing is to try and leave enough mana open that you can play whatever card you're going to pick, because if you don't, you basically just lose whatever you've sent to exile. Magda, the Horde Master, is another insanely good card for this deck because, of course, all my sorceries and instants that deal damage are committing crimes, which means at least once per turn I get a treasure token, as long as he's on the field, probably. And the whole sacrificing 3 treasures for a Scorpion Dragon probably isn't going to happen. Mostly because I just don't care about that part. Tunneling Geopede, honestly, that's one I could probably cut from this deck. It's mainly in here just because it deals all the extra damage to each opponent, which I like. But there's not a lot of lands in this deck, so landfall isn't a big thing. I don't think I have a red-green landfall-based deck currently, though. I suppose my Snake Samurai deck might be, kind of, but not really. Anyways, that's another one that could be considered for cuts. So I'm just going to make a pile here of the ones I'm considering for cuts. I'm going to keep Florian in for now. I think that the choice is the reason why. Charging Tuscadon Trample, if it would deal combat damage to a player, it deals double that damage instead. So it's a 4/4, costs 5 to put into play. Again, this isn't supposed to be a super heavy combat deck. So maybe. Ashling Flame Dancer, you don't lose unspent red mana as steps and phases end, and whenever you cast or copy an instant or sorcery spell, you discard a card, then draw a card. If it's the second time, this lady does 2 damage to each opponent and each creature they control. And if it's the third time, I get to add 4 red mana. So she's very versatile in this deck. Definitely a solid add-in. Nirkana Assassin, whenever you gain life, this thing gains Death Touch until end of turn. When you see what my commander is, you'll understand why this is actually an incredibly good add-in to this deck. Marauding Blight Priest, 2 and a black. Whenever you gain life, each opponent loses 1 life. That's just a perfect include for this deck. Spitfire the Gak, another one that's dealing land damage. Like the Tunneling Geopede, it does have a little bit more defense, which is why it costs you 1 extra mana. But it is another one that definitely is kind of a hit or miss if I don't start adding more lands to the deck. So we'll put it down there with the other one. Bloodthirsty Adversary, 1 and a red. When it enters the battlefield, you may pay 2 and a red any number of times. When you pay this cost 1 or more times, put that many +1/+1 counters on this thing, then exile that many target instant and sorcery spells with mana value 3 or less from your graveyard, and copy them. You can cast any number of the copies without paying their mana costs. I put this in here largely because there is an insane number of instants and sorceries that would fit that bill. I'm just going to do a quick count before I show you. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 instants. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 sorceries that would fit into that category. So if I can pay the mana cost enough times when she comes into play, which the beautiful Ashling will help with that, then I can actually trigger a whole bunch of damage spells all at once, and that is going to be fun for this deck. Servant of the Stinger, it's another one that could possibly get cut. It's mainly in here because of the idea that if I committed a crime this turn after it's done damage, I can sacrifice it and search my library for any card. So it's a great tutor. That's my second grade of the day. There are a few cards in here that I do want to tutor for, but not a lot. And this one doesn't really count as a regular tutor, so it can get around the whole Game Changers list, which is nice. I do have, unfortunately, the Final Fantasy version because I couldn't get enough copies of Sir Conrad the Grim, the original. But I do kind of like the artwork for this one. I feel like it fits really well with this deck. And of course, because creatures are going to be dying constantly, there is going to definitely be a bunch of death triggers. Now, the only downside to him is if he is out with my Festival of Embers at the same time, I'm not going to get any of the death triggers on my side of the field. But then again, I'm not looking to kill a lot of my creatures necessarily with this deck. I'm more so focusing on everybody else's stuff. So, how many things are coming out of my graveyard, though? That is the next question. There's not a lot of creatures that are coming in and out of my graveyard in this deck, really. So that is the downside to him being in there. He might actually fit better in a different deck, but for now, this is where he is. Reassembling Skeleton is one of the reasons why he's in here, though, because this card constantly can come back to my hand. Or to the battlefield. So always a great damn, stop using great. Devoted Duelist. Haste. Whenever you cast your second spell each turn, this creature deals 1 damage to each opponent. Main reason he's in there. I'm probably going to be playing at least a couple instants and sorceries with the low mana curve of this deck. Most of the high mana curve of this deck is actually in the artifacts, enchantments, and creatures. The sorceries and instants themselves, I think there's like 5 that are more than 4 mana. So it's not a huge mana value deck in terms of that. Misfortune Teller is fun because when it enters the battlefield or deals combat damage to a player, I can exile a card from a graveyard. If it was a creature, I get a 2/2 rogue. If it was a land, I get a treasure. And otherwise, I gain 3 life. So, very solid engine all around. Sanatorious Skeleton, another thing to just pull back out of the graveyard constantly, which will help trigger Sir Conrad. Massacre Worm, you guys saw me pull this in one of my live streams. It is the hollow, not the full art one though. The full art one is in my actual Phyrexian deck. When this creature enters, all of my opponent's creatures get -2/-2 into the 10 to turn, and if an opponent's creature dies, that player loses 2 life. I like that this one is lose life versus damage, which I believe, yeah, Sir Conrad is damage. So if you have ways to prevent being dealt damage, Sir Conrad and a lot of the spells in this deck won't trigger. But Massacre Worm will constantly drain you for 2 life. That is a reliable dude. Panicked Altasaur is largely in here because I can tap it to deal 2 damage to each opponent. And it has reach. This deck is pretty vulnerable to flying. So having a creature with reach to do some blocking, and then if I don't have to do any blocking, I can tap it and deal a couple damage before my upkeep each turn. So extra little bit of damage is always good. Vengeful Devil, haste, morbid, tap it, deals 1 damage to any target, but you can only do it if a creature died this turn. That's another one that I could probably see cutting, to be honest. It's not a terrible card, but I just don't think I need it that bad. If anything, I'm going to probably cut these 3. I might keep the Tuscadon. I might keep the Hound, actually. I'm going to cut these 2 probably for sure. And I'm going to put a couple extra lands in there. Chandra's Magmut. Tap, deals 1 damage to target player or planeswalker. I'm going to cut that one too, actually. Electrostatic Field. Defender. When you cast an instant or sorcery, it deals 1 damage to each opponent. That I like. Graveshifter, when it enters the battlefield, you can return a target creature card from your graveyard to your hand. Perfect. And another one with Menace and Reach, the Reach being the main reason he's in here. Yeah, you know what? I think what I'm going to do is I'm probably going to cut... I'm going to cut the Tuscadon for sure. I like the Tuscadon, but I don't need it. It's not important to this deck. I think I'm going to keep the rest of it, though, for now. Actually, I'm going to get rid of the Devil, too. I'm going to keep these 4. I'm going to add a couple extra lands to this deck. We'll do that super quick. Bring over this mini lands box that I have going over here. Those go over there. Lands box. I have a much bigger lands box actually over in the cabinet behind me where I keep my actual completed decks. But for now, let's grab just a simple, if I can find a couple, mountain and swamp, because I'm not looking to put anything crazy into this deck. Because, like I say, I'm not a huge fan of impulse nonsense. Yeah, no. There's a nice mountain, and just gotta find the swamp. You guys have been real good real good participants today, because you guys are putting up a lot of my nonsense. There we go. That should be good for now. Put the land box back up there. Okay. Well, just put those 2 extra lands in because it makes more sense to have a couple extra lands and to have those 2 creatures in here. And now let's get into the good stuff. The instants and sorceries. I'm going to start with the instants, actually. We got ourselves a lightning bolt. Deals 3 damage to any creature or player. Demon bolt deals 4 damage to a creature or a planeswalker. Unexpected windfall for a couple extra cards and a couple extra treasures. Magma spray deals 2 damage to target creature. If it would die, gets exiled. Offer of immortality to give death touch and indestructible to protect my commander largely. Smite the Deathless deals 3 damage to a creature. If that creature loses indestructible, and if it would die, gets exiled. Chandra's Fury deals 4 damage to target player and 1 damage to each creature they control. That one's actually a really good one. There's quite a few little ping damage spells in here that hit the board, and there's a particular reason for that, of course, because my commander is awesome. If you haven't guessed my commander yet, you should be getting a real big hint from that one. Hungry Flames deals 3 damage to target creature and 2 damage to a player or planeswalker. Necrobite, creature gains death touch and regenerate it, again protecting my commander probably. Another chance, mill a couple cards and get a couple creatures back. Since I have a small amount of creatures, that's not a bad idea. Scorching Dragonfire, 1 and a red, deals 3 damage to a creature or planeswalker. If it would die, it gets exiled. Reverberate, pay 2 red, and you can copy any instant or sorcery spell. Pretty solid on the stack. Scorchmark, 1 and a red, deals 2 damage to target creature. If that creature would die, it gets exiled. Twin Bolt deals 2 damage divided as you choose among 1 or 2 targets. Anything, including players, planeswalkers, or creatures. Bedevil, destroy target artifact, creature, or planeswalker at instant speed. Nice. Soulseer, 2 and a red to deal 5 damage to a creature or planeswalker. It loses indestructible until end of turn. This one doesn't exile it, that's the only downside, but I mean, at least for sure it's going to the graveyard. And a Braid deals 3 damage to target creature and destroy target artifact. You get to pick one. Now, like I say, we're doing a lot of damage in this deck, and that is the main goal, is not necessarily attacking, but just blanketing the board with damage all over the place. So continuing on with that mentality, Strangle, 3 damage to target creature or planeswalker. Teutonic Hazard, 1 damage to each opponent and each creature they control. Tendrils of Agony, 2 target player loses 2 life and you gain 2 life, but this is a Storm card, which is awesome, so if you've played a few cards this turn, or if you, because it's sorcery speed, it has to be on your turn. So if you stack a few instants and sorceries and then you play this afterwards, you're going to get multiple triggers on it, which is cool. Magic Missile, 1 and 2 red, can't be countered, deals 3 damage as you choose among 1, 2, or 3 targets. Aggressive Sabotage, this one is one I'm considering cutting, but I just don't know what I want to put in its place. I really like this card for a different deck, and if I have another copy of it, that would be amazing, but I'm not sure I do. I force a player to discard 2 cards, and if I kick it by paying an extra red, I deal 3 damage to that player. The reason why I want to possibly pull this is because it would fit amazingly well into my Death Touch Discard, Destroy deck. Destroy Everything deck. Tongue-tied. Morgue Burst. 4 and a black and a red. Return target creature from your graveyard to your hand. Then this thing deals damage to target creature or player equal to the power of the card you returned. Rise again, another way to bring a creature back. So like you see, like there are ways to trigger Sir Conrad. It's just not the main focus of the deck. I am considering, actually, there is one card that I am considering adding to this deck that I didn't put in yet. I'm just trying to remember if it's an enchantment or a artifact. I think it's an artifact. Which is that one huge pull we got the other day, the Phyrexian Altar. Portal to Phyrexia, sorry. I think Portal to Phyrexia might be a really good card to put into this deck, but it costs so much that I just don't know if I would actually be able to pull it off frequently enough for it to be worth it. Because this isn't a deck that like stacks mana or encourages you to search for lands and stuff. So getting to 9 is going to be pretty hard, which is the main reason I didn't include it. But it is a consideration in the back of my mind. So just so you guys know. Continuing on. I do have Macabre Waltz in here as well. Again, just bringing stuff back from the graveyard because their creature base is kind of limited. As far as creatures go, I think there's 30 or less. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. There's 25 creatures, including the commander. So, I mean, only a quarter of the deck is creatures. It's not common for me to go that low with a creature base, so that's why I've included so many spells to bring things back. Crackle with Power is kind of like my closing spell in this deck. Triple X 2 and a red, or Triple X 2 red. This thing deals 5 damage, 5 times X damage to each of up to X targets. So as long as you can pay 6 mana into this, let's say, you're going to deal 10 damage to 2 targets. It's not amazing, but it's not terrible either. To be honest, though, I think I'm going to take that one out. I think there's a better deck for that one. I'm sure you guys are enjoying these edits on the fly today. Right before I started, I had a choice of 2 cards to put in this deck, and I picked a different one. Or I picked this one over the other one, and I'm thinking that was a mistake. We're doing sorceries now. I'm looking at the wrong end of the box. So I just want to see if I think the other one was a better choice. Was the other one an instant? Your guys' patience is insane today. I greatly appreciate it for this video. Hopefully I'll be more organized next week. Like I said, I really wasn't expecting my... Well, I was kind of expecting him to go out, but I wasn't expecting him to go out right this second. So I was hoping I had a little more time to prepare. It is a sorcery, but I put it in the instant pile by accident. I'm going to take out Crackle of Power. I think it's too expensive for this deck. Again, with the mana value being as low as it is, I'm going to pick instead to put in Rolling Thunder, which is a much better choice, I think, for this deck. The reason being that it's only 1x instead of 3, so I won't have to pay in as much mana, and I can still choose any number of targets, target creatures or players. The only thing I can't hit is planeswalkers with this one, which is kind of sad, but it is what it is. It's definitely the better choice, though, for this deck. I'm going to keep that Crackle of Power for the Goblin deck that I'm building, which should be ready for next week, as I say, hopefully. I'm planning to finish it today and finish the Tatiova today, too. Splitting Earth, 1 and a red, deals damage equal to target creature equal to the number of mountains you control. That is probably going to be somewhere in the neighborhood of 15, I think now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Does that one count as a mountain and forest? Or mountain and swamp? No. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Currently it's 12. I'm going to probably change one of those lands to Swamp Mountain at the end of this video too. Probably after I cut it off though, because it's already gone for 35 minutes. Holy crap, I gotta get this done. But Lightning deals 3 damage to target player, and they have to discard 2 cards. Love that. Thundering Rebuke, 4 damage to target creature or planeswalker. Swallowing Plague is one of my favorites, actually. It deals X damage to target creature, and you gain X life. I really like this one in this deck for how it will work with my commander again. So this is an awesome one. Insatiable Avarice, 1 black. And then you either pay +2 to search your library for a card and shuffle, put it on top. Or you can also pay 2 extra black and target player draws 3 cards and loses 3 life. Fantastic way to get some extra stuff into your hand. Scorching Sands to deal 1 damage to each creature your opponents control, and you get to scry 1. And finally, Bolt Wave, 3 damage to each opponent. Now, why am I doing all this damage, and why is this deck so awesome, you ask? Well, it's because of how awesome the commander is. Before we reveal the commander, let's reveal the planeswalker. The planeswalker for this deck is Jaya, Fiery Negotiator, 2 and 2 red. She makes monk tokens with prowess, which is awesome for this deck because of all the sorceries and instants in it. She also lets me exile cards from the top, and I can play one of them. I'm typically not going to use that ability. I would use the second and the last abilities, though. Choose target creature an opponent controls. Whenever you attack this turn, this thing deals damage equal to the number of attacking creatures to that creature. That I could possibly see using. But the main reason she's in here is because of the monks and because of -8. If I can get her to 8 loyalty and I get rid of the 8 loyalty, I get an emblem that says whenever I cast an instant or a red instant or sorcery spell, I get to copy it twice. Now that is fantastic for this deck, because the commander of this deck, which I'm sure you've guessed by now, but if not, the surprise for you is Judith, Carnage Connoisseur. If you've already guessed it, bravo to you. I give you an applause because this one was one that was very guessable, but at the same time, you could have totally blown it. There are lots of red-black commanders, so if you got it, applause to you. If you didn't, don't feel bad. But Judith is definitely the best commander for a spell slinger deck in red and black, because whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, you can choose to give it Death Touch and Lifelink. So all of these damage spells are going to kill the creature instantly, and then give me lifelink damage, lifelink growth on it. The second thing I'm not going to do, probably. And there you have it, my red-black spellslinger deck. Alright guys, I hope you've enjoyed this one. Much love to you all. From me, you take care. Bye. It's much later in the afternoon. I just wanted to give you guys a quick update that Kaiba is back up and about. We went to the splash pad. He had a bunch of fun. His nail did start bleeding again, but he seemed to not be bothered by it as much this time. Yes, I'm deliberately filming low to try and avoid... Hey, Kaiba! No. No. To try and avoid getting the plants in the film, which somebody is now trying to eat. Silly pug. Anyways, I also realized that I forgot to do the following, and I didn't want this video to go without it. So, we hope you have enjoyed this episode of Super Deck Sunday! 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 Alright guys, now we're going to officially sign off. Much love to you all from Kaiba over there, who's enjoying the plants a little too much, and I to you, take care. Love you. Bye.